Wednesday night, March 24th, 2021. Pesach is a few nights away, and we generally look at issues of halacha. Tonight, we're not going to talk really halacha. We're going to talk about parshanut and philosophy and the Jewish thought. And this is going to be this is not based upon, but rather we're going to be reading an article by Rabbi Eliyahou Zaini. And it's an article that talks about Pesach and its connection to the Jewish mindset and eternal freedom. I think it's very interesting how he, in general, he's a thinker, and he really likes to examine things and pull them apart and see how it has shaped us, molded us, what we have as a nation, because of our experiences, have even done for the world because of those experiences. And Pesach is really the point when we were, if you want to call it, think of that as the crucible. Okay, Am Yisrael was in this crucible, was in Mitzrayim, enslaved, working, day in, day out for over 2 centuries, and it really helped to form us into who we were. And so this is what we're starting with. Here's the article. I sent it to David. I believe he forwarded it to all of you already. Pesach Mitzrayim HaKoreh Lanu Leherut Olam V'Nesach. Yetziat Mitzrayim Be'einei Hador. So I'm not going to bother translating the title or the subtitle for now. I just want to jump right into it. בידי דורנו בארץ ישראל, ולא פחות מבכל העולם, אם לא יותר, מתחנך באופן עקרוני בשני אופנים שונים. So he's talking about education of Jews in Israel and as well as outside of Israel. האופן העיקרי הוא מול מסך מחשב ואינטרנט, שבוי בקסמי תמונות וסיורים, הוא אינו מסוגל להבחין בין האמת ובין השקר, בין מאמר ערכי ואמיתי ובין מאמר המשקף בורות, חוסר ערכיות, ובענייני תורה עם הארסות, שהרי כל זב ומסורה יכול לפרסם דברי הבל שלו לצד דברי איש דעת ובונה. So these are very, very powerful words. He's telling you, the world we live in today, your average person sits in front of a screen like we're doing right now. You're sitting in front of the internet, and you're seeing bleeps and blurbs and words and pictures, everything coming flying at you. And you, the receiver, the viewer, have no idea if you're looking at nonsense that some fool put together and put up there to influence you, or if you're looking at something that is factual, something that is truthful, something that has a core value to it, and you don't know what's being thrown at you. And some of us are aware of this because we see how people are affected by whatever comes by way of their email box or whatever chat groups they may be on, or people that they think know what they're talking about, but when they actually get on there, they know nothing about them. We see that more and more every day. Here we go. Michael Bilderici joined at the exact right moment because, people get on and talk about things that have no value and they don't know what they're talking about. And so somebody could put up an article there and claim that it's a article of Torah, and it really has nothing to do with Torah and may actually go against the Torah. But because they're packaging it the right way and they're putting it up on the internet, automatically people think it's true. Okay? Let's just take something like, Wikipedia. Is Wikipedia reliable? Is it not reliable? Really depends on who's putting up the information. So every article is different from the one prior to it and the one post. In any case, let's go on. Now, obviously, I didn't translate literally Rabbi Zaini's words, which were a bit harsher than what I said. וכך, כל הכתוב דיגיטלית נעשה קודש קודשים ואמת לאמיתה. Okay, everything digital becomes holier, than everything else. והאופן השני, למוכשרים יותר, או למתעניינים יותר, במוסדות להשכלה גבוה. Now, for those that are a little more fine-tuned, okay, so now we're dealing with institutions of higher learning. Okay, they're not getting the bulk of the information from the internet, but they're actually getting from institutions of higher learning. אבל במוסדות להשכלה אלה, תושתשה הבחנה בין מדעים מדויקים ובין מדעי הרוח משום שאלה האחרונים מתוך קנאה או אי הבנה אימצו לעצמם גישה הראויה למדעים המדויקים ולא למדעי הרוח. But now, even in these institutions of higher learning, in the universities, in the colleges, okay, who's teaching you? Is every professor that's out there, is he really cut out to teach? Does he really know what he's talking about? Or just because, he has some crazy idea and he's jealous of his colleagues, he talks nonsense, but because he has his position and he's housed in such a place, are his words taken seriously even though they should not be? אם בהכרת החומר שלילה תיאוריה מקובל מביאה לידי קדמה לא כמדעי הרוח ששם ברוב המקרים שלילת התיאוריות המקובלות הורסת את האמת המקובלת בכל החברה. He's talking about, your doctorate thesis and your dissertations, whether they actually go through peer review or not. ומצב זה קריטי עבורנו עם ישראל. But the whole situation says is critical for us, the Jewish people. שלילת העבר שלנו מוליכה מיד לשלילת התורה שבעל פה ואף להרס התורה שבכתב. So there's obviously a situation where you have either on the internet or in the university setting people putting down and creating a negative image of our past. And once you create this negative image of our past being the beginnings of Am Yisrael forming as a fledgling nation, going through this period of enslavement in Egypt, okay? So once you toss that out and say it never happened, or it's not as many people as, the rabbis want you to believe, or it wasn't as many years, or it wasn't as harsh, or there's no history for it in Egyptian annals, or what may have you. So not only are you destroying that, but you're destroying Torah. You're destroying especially Torah Sheba'al Peh, because all of this that we know comes through Torah Sheba'al Peh. If we're destroying Torah Sheba'al Peh historically, we're also destroying all the, if you want to call it, the halachic areas of Torah Sheba'al Peh as well. So basically, you have all types of form of education that are attacking Am Yisrael from the core. That's what he's getting to over here. והמדעי ביותר הוא שלמקהלת ההורסים שותפים לעיתים בעלי כיפות ואף בעלי תורה ומוסדות חינוך. He goes, and sometimes you have, religious people wearing a kippah that are pushing this same agenda. And it's either because they don't know or because they've already been influenced in a certain direction. גם חג הפסח ותולדות יציאת מצרים נפלו קורבן לרוחות סופה הרסנית הנושבות בכמה מחלקות למדעי הרוח. He goes, and even the holiday of Pesach and the history of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus, have fallen as sacrifice to this new wave of thought. משום כך החלטתי להגיש לכל הורה, לכל מחנך, כמובן לכל צעיר משכיל במעט, הסתכלות מחודשת על כל יציאתנו לחירות העולם, שאני מקווה שתחזק אצלו אמונה ודבקות בהשם. Now this is very important what he's telling you. He goes, because of that, I saw it as incumbent upon myself, Rabbi Zaini saying about himself, to come and set the record straight to anybody who wants to learn, whether you are young or old, whether you're open-minded, closed-minded, you're religious, irreligious, anybody who's willing to open up and listen and learn, and I'll show you what Yetziat Mitzrayim is, to at least instill basic foundations of emunah in Hashem and clinging, debekut, to Hashem. B'torato, or the Divrei Hachamenu, and clinging to the Torah, and the words of the Hachamim, שהקריבו את חייהם כדי שנשאר נאמנים לחסר ולקודש שיחלו להתגלות בעולמנו עם אברהם אבינו עליו השלום ביציאת מצרים. He goes, since time immemorial, basically, we're being slaughtered, we're being destroyed because of our beliefs. And now we have this new age, and our beliefs are being destroyed from within. Everything that, until now they tried to destroy in us, we're destroying, within ourselves spiritually. So we need to understand who we are, where we come from, what we're about, so we could cling to these emunot that has held our nation so high and alive all this time.
When was this written?
This is fairly new.
Okay.
He wrote this fairly recent. This is in his most recent book. Okay, this book came out last year, 2020.
Information here.
I'm sorry?
He's talking about technology and blogs and postings,
everything,
which can't be too old.
No, it's not too old. And he's obviously, very much in tune with these type of things. He's, Rabbi Nathan, I don't know how well you know of Rabbi Zaini or don't know of Rabbi Zaini. He was the past or the former rabbi of the Technion. Okay? So besides heading his own Hesder Yeshiva called Or Vishu'a, which is in Haifa, he was the rabbi of the Technion. Okay? So obviously he's well aware of technology, and he has some sort of crazy degree in mathematics as well. So he definitely understands what's going on in the world, and he's in touch and in tune with it. He's saying this article in front of you, it's a 10-page article, it says incomplete. This is the first draft. שאני מקווה שהקדוש ברוך הוא יזכה אותי להשלימו לטובת כל קורא וכל שואף לדבקות השם. That he's asking Borei Olam to help him complete. That way it will be, well-rounded for anybody who wants to learn and cling to Borei Olam. שחרורנו תלוי בשחרור מרוח עבודתיות, פרי בוסר של גלות ממושכה שהצליחה להפוך רגע לטבע. Okay. Now let's move on. Yesiat Mitzrayim b'Torat Hashem. Now, to start, he's telling you we're going at Yesiat Mitzrayim, and that's the most important thing. Now, obviously, his Hebrew is a very, very modern Hebrew. So at times, you see, it's not easy to read it on your own. It doesn't flow as easily as the rabbinic Hebrew that we're used to for most of our classes. But nonetheless, he's a top-notch Hacham, and he knows what he's saying. לתרום במעט את חלקי למאבק עמנו נגד המגמות הבאות למוטט את יסודות האמונה בישראל. ברצוני לעמוד על שתי נקודות עקרוניות המהוות את כל יסודו של חג המסות. So he's telling you, in order for me to do what I want to do based upon what we just read in this brief introduction, I have to focus on 2 points, which basically brings into focus the foundation of Hag HaMasot. לשם כך, עלינו קודם להתבונן מחדש בתיאור של יציאת מצרים. We first must look anew at the description of יציאת מצרים, כפי שהוא מובא בספר שמות פרק י"ב. So basically, go back to basics. Go back to the Torah. Go back to the Chumash. Okay? And don't just, okay, I read the Pesukim, I'm done. No, let's reread them. Let's understand the Pesukim. And you'll see that he has highlighted a few key phrases. And we'll get to them, but let's read it and we'll see what we're talking about. ויאמר אדוני אל משה ואל אהרון בארץ מצרים לאמור. החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה. So first Pesukim, Hashem talks to Moshe and Aharon in Egypt, and he tells them about the first month. דברו אל כל עדת ישראל לאמור בעשור לחודש הזה, ויקחו להם איש שא לבית אבות של הבית. Okay, on the 10th of tell everybody, on the 10th of the month, everybody takes the sheep. במימעת הבית מיות מסה, ולקחו שכנו הקרוב אל ביתו, במכסת נפשות, איש לפי אוכלו תחוסו על הסה. תמים זכר בן שנה. יהיה לכם מן הכבשים ומן העזים תיקחו. And he's giving the requirements. והיה לכם משמרת עד 14 יום לחודש הזה, ושחטו אותו כל קהל עדה ישראל בן הערביים. And you keep this sheep with you until the 14th, and that's when you're going to do your, what do you call it? That's when you'll slaughter it in the bin Arbaim, okay, which is the afternoon. ולקחו מן הדם ונתנו על שתי המזוזות ועל המשקוף על הבתים אשר יאכלו אותו בהם. Okay, and take the blood, you're going to put it on the doorpost, on the lintel, as we know. ואכלו את הבשר בלילה הזה, שלי אש ומסות על מרורים יאכלוהו. Okay, and we're going to eat this korban at night, roasted, מסות, מרור, fine. אל תאכלו ממנו נא, ובשל מושב המים, כי אם שלי אש, ראשו על קרעיו ועל קרבו. You can't eat it raw, you can't eat it cooked, boiled in water. It has to be fire roasted, okay? And it has to be bent over, but basically the head is going into its knees, if you will. Nothing can remain until the morning, and if anything does remain, you must burn it. And you must eat it, you know, not in a relaxed fashion, you know, hanging around in your pajamas or in a robe. No, you got to be fully dressed. You have to have your sword at your side. You have to have your shoes on your feet. You have your staff in your hand, you know, and eat it quickly. It's Pesach. ועברתי בארץ מצרים בלילה הזה, והכיתי כל בכור בארץ מצרים מאדם ועד בהמה, ובכל אלוהי מצרים יעשה שפטים, אני אדוני. And I'm going to pass through Egypt on that night, and I'm going to smite all the firstborn of Mitzrayim, from man to animal. And to all the gods of Egypt, I am going to do wonders. I am God. לאות על הבתים אשר אתם שם, וראיתי את הדם, ופסחתי עליכם, ולא יהיה בכם נגף ומשחית, מכיתי במצרים. Okay? Make sure you have the blood on your doorposts. Okay? I'm going to see it. I'm going to pass over your house, and nothing bad will occur to you when I smite all of Egypt. והיה היום הזה לכם לזיכרון, וחגותם את חג אדוני לדורותיכם, חוקת עולם תחוגוהו. Okay, and you'll never forget this day. It'll be a memorial day for all of you. It's going to be a holiday for all generations. שבעת ימים מסות תאכלו, אך ביום הראשון תשביתו שאור מבתיכם, כי כל חמץ ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מישראל מיום הראשון עד יום השביעי. Okay, 7 days you eat the masa. On the first day you have to know that you get rid of all sort of seor from your homes. And anybody who eats hametz, they're going to be punished with karet. Okay, and this goes from the first day to the 7th day. וביום הראשון מקרא קודש, וביום השביעי מקרא קודש. So we have the front and back ends, the first and 7th day are מקרא קודש, Yom Tov, as we know it today. יהיה לכם כל מלאכה לא יעשה בהם, אך אשר יאכל לכל נפש, הוא לבדו יעשה לכם. ושמרתם את המסות, כי בעצם היום הזה הוצאתי את צבאותיכם ממצרים. Okay, and watch the masot, because on the very essence of that day, I took out צבאותיכם, your hosts. Okay, all your people, ממצרים. ושמרתם את היום הזה לדורותיכם חוקת עולם, and observe this day forever. בראשון, ב14 יום לחודש, בערב תאכלו מסות, עד יום האחד ב20 לחודש בערב. Okay, from the 14th to the 21st, you're going to observe the holiday. שבעת ימים, שאור לא ימסה בתיכם. For 7 days, שאור will not be found in your homes. כי כל אוכל מחמצת ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מעדת ישראל, בגר ובאזרח הארץ. כל מחמצת לא תאכל, בכל מושבותיכם תאכלו מסות. Okay, we have a basic idea of what the Pesukim mean. Obviously, there's a lot of commentary that we could add to the Pesukim. We have plenty of people here that are much more well-versed in the Pesukim and the various opinions of the Hachamim over the last, I don't know, 2,000 years, maybe more, that they could share with us. Well, let's see what Rabbi Zaini has to say. אבל כשעיינים בפרשה יסודית זו בחיי עמנו ובתולדותיו. פרשה זו הנראית כה בהירה וברורה במבט ראשון. Because okay, we're looking at it. What's the big deal? Everything seems crystal clear. What's the problem? מתגלה כמוקשית כולה מתחילתה ועד סופה. When we really look at it, the entire thing is troubling. It's one big giant question snowballing into question. ושאלות כה רבות מתעוררות. And so many questions arise. שאנו עומדים ומתמיהים, and we stand there scratching our heads in bewilderment. האם באמת התעכבנו אי פעם עליה כדבעי? Did we ever stop and think about it? Did we ever look at these psukim? והנה חלק משאלות אלה. And here are some of the questions that come up. So, I'm sure if I turn to each one of you, you'll each have a question. Okay? But let's see what Rabbi Zaini has to say. Okay, unless somebody has something that they really want to say right now, to let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move forward. Okay. Yeah, Rabbi Nathan, you want to say something?
No, talking to my daughter that I'm in a class right now.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
I did text you something privately, but I didn't want to interrupt the class with it, so I just chatted with you on Zoom privately.
No problem. I don't generally look at it, but since you mentioned, I'll open it up now for myself. Okay. So here we go. Aleph. ما هي هدجشة الزو الموشى والأهرون بإرث مصريم? What's going on? What do you mean? To Moshe and Aharon in the land of Egypt. וכי היכן בכלל היו משה ואהרון עד אותו רגע? Well, they weren't in Egypt. We don't know they're in Egypt. What's the point of saying that? Okay? הלא הם במצרים. ובמילה מצרים, הכוונה היא למצרים במובן המסומסם של אזור זה אז, or maybe he's talking about a specific area in Egypt. קרא מה שפרעה עצמו, like Paro in Bereshit, right, when the brothers came down, what did he tell them? Mechanim Misraim, kedei lehabdil bena uben Eretz Goshen. He talks about Misraim to show the difference between it and the land of Goshen, right? Eretz Misraim lefanecha hi, b'mitab ha'aretz hoshev et abicha ve'et achecha yeshivu Eretz Goshen, b'im yada'ata v'yesh bam anshe hayel v'samtam sarim b'knei ala sheli. Okay, so here's Egypt in front of you, but you're going to put them in Goshen. But that's not the case over here. מדוע היה צורך שדיבור זה יתגלה באותו ארץ מצרים דווקא? Why? Why ארץ מצרים? Why is בורא עולם telling us בארץ מצרים? ב' ואם כמסורת רבותינו בכל הדורות, יש בהוראה זו הנחיה ברורה לגבי מבנה לוח השנה העברי לדורות. Now, as we showed, the first two Pesukim are talking about establishing the year, establishing the month, right? You know, and this is a very, very important mitzvah, as we know. Okay, one of the very first mitzvot, establishing the Jewish calendar. If that's the case, right? This is the issue of halakha. מדוע אהרון מוזמן להיות שותף להנחיה האלוהית בהקשר הלכתי שאינו מתפקידו? So why is Aharon in the midst of this? Why is he invited? This has nothing to do with him. If it's something having to do with the kihuna, you know, with the Mishkan, then we see Aharon being, you know, called in or introduced. This has nothing to do with him. Halachic discussions are generally between Borei Olam and Moshe Rabbeinu. Nobody else, unless it pertains to them. This has nothing to do with telling Aharon. גם עצם בחירת הרגע הזה כדי להנחות עם ישראל לדורות לגבי מבנה הזמן שלו הוא מפתיע. And the very essence of talking about the Jewish calendar now, and you know what the Jews have to know later on in history, it's disturbing. What does that have to do with anything? We're talking about a nation that's not really a nation because they are settled in a foreign country. They're still enslaved. Okay? They've been enslaved for 200 plus years. Okay? You think they care about calendars? Okay? They're worried about waking up in the morning. They have no other concern right now. They just want to be saved. That's all they care about. What are you telling them about what has to do with anything?
Joey.
Yes.
Who's the audience of this article? I'm only asking because if you take someone who knows the Pesukim and knows the Divrei Mefarshim on this Pasuk, you have Rashi comments on this, you have the Rashbam that comments on this. So is it for a group of people that aren't aware, or is he bothered and doesn't like the answers of Mefarshim on this question?
So generally, Rabbi Zaini's audience is a very learned audience. Like I said, he has his own Yeshivat Hester. That is his first audience for everything. Okay? Then he has the Kahal, the people that generally live in the neighborhood of the yeshiva, and they go to either learn or pray there weekdays and Shabbatot. His next audience, okay, is whenever he's invited to give sermons. Okay? Plus, he has plenty of writings which go out all over Israel and obviously other places in the world. But no, generally, anything he writes is geared towards Talmidim. Okay? And the Talmidim that are pretty well versed in everything. But he likes to show them how you think you're well versed, but you're not well versed. Torah is something that you have to constantly delve into, and you have to constantly learn and relearn. As far as the Mefarshim, many of the Mefarshim give answers to things that sometimes resonate with one another, and at times they may seem to, and then they'll go off on a different track. And I think that's what Rabbi Zaini is trying to do over here. Go off onto a different track, because his point is to establish who we are, okay? Plus, make sure that we don't deviate from our Emunah Borei Olam and our Debekut Hashem. Now, based upon his intro is obviously that this particular article is geared to a much wider audience, people that may be university students and or the person sitting home who gets his, information just off the internet without anything else. So he's trying to deal with a very, very wide audience. That's what I think. Okay? But definitely the yeshivot of the yeshiva Hester that he has, like I told you, okay, it's called Or Vishu'ah. And obviously he has younger students, he has older students, those that have graduated, have already become rabbis, in their own right. Those are also, his first, that's where he springboards everything off of generally. Okay? And then he goes from there before he actually begins to publicize anything. Okay, let's continue. I hope I answered. Yes? Good. All right. So now we're up to Gimel, page 263, Gimel. ותמיהה נוספת, לאחר שני פסוקים קצרים, האמורים להקיף את כללי הלוח העברי, right? We said two short פסוקים. מתחילה בפתע פתאום תוכנית שלמה הבאה לסדר את כל ניהול החודש הזה מכאן ודורות. All of a sudden, after these two intro pisukim, boom, he goes into the whole formula, which is going to shape what we know and how we do things. Hu HaChodesh HaRishon, so this is the first month. Ba'asiri Lekihat Pesach, on the 10th day of this first month, we take the Paschal lamb. הפירת היחיד ברשימה זו שאינו לדורות, and that's the only thing that has nothing to do with being something that must be done for generations to come. That happens this one time only in history, it never happens again. ב-14 שחיטת הפסח, on the 14th, sacrificed lamb. השבתת השאור מן הבתים, getting rid of seor from the homes. ב-15 שבעת ימים מסות אוכלו, from the 15th, 7 days of eating מסות. איסור מלאכה ביום הראשון ויום השביעי, the prohibition of doing work on the 1st and 7th day of this holiday. היתר אוכל נפש ביום טוב, the allowance of אוכל נפש, of preparing food on יום טוב. אכילת הקורבן בלילה עד הבוקר, the eating of the korban at night until the morning. ושרפת הנותר וכהנה רבות המזוות, and the burning of any sort of remains from this sacrifice, and as such many other mizvot. כאילו כל החודש הזה נבחר אך ורק משום עבודת השם שבו, as if this month was chosen, not primarily, but only for the strict reason of the servitude of God that appears in it. And if that servitude of God wasn't there, this month wouldn't be chosen, or so it seems. Dalet. בנוגע לפסח מצרים, in regards to Pesach Mitzrayim, מדוע צורך בלקיחת עשה לקורבן פסח בעשור לחודש כאשר בסופו של דבר הוא יתקרב בי"ד בו? Why? Why take this Paschal lamb on the 10th day of the month if all in all we're not going to do shahita, we're not going to slaughter it until the 14th? What's the point? And if we had all this time to hang out with the lamb, why do we have to eat it so quickly? Why we're in slow motion and then we're in fast forward? Hello, אין איש מתיישב לאכול סעודה כה מכובדת, בשר סרי וכדומה, אלא באופן מסודר. Who sits down to such a, special meal, okay? An honorable meal, in such a fashion. You would expect that you're going to be sit down, hanging out, not rushing. Okay, you're reclining at your table, and not like a person who's standing there, you're waiting for that, for the fire bell to go so you can go running out. You basically you're dressed like a fireman, right? You're completely girded, okay? You have your coat, your jacket, your shoes, your sword, your belt, everything. You're ready to run. It's gonna ring ding, 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 and you're gonna go flying out. What kind of sawada is this? ומדוע בדרך ששום אדם נורמלי לא היה אוכלו? No normal human being would eat this way. Hey, ובכל הקשור לקורבן פסח לדורות, רשימה זו ממש מהממת בפרטי דרישותיה הלא מובנות. Because everything tied into the Korban Pesach for generations to come is just a laundry list of too many questions, too many points that need to be explained. ومدوع هحوبا لقحطو وأف لأخلو مشبحا. Why are you obligated to take it and even to eat it with family? מדוע לשון זו ואם ימעט הבית מיום מסה כאילו לא משפחה היא המדאיגה אותנו אלא הסה. He goes, listen to the words of the pasuk. ואם ימעט הבית מהיות מסה. It's a very strange way of formulating the statement. If the house is less than being of a seh, being of a sheep. In other words, if you don't have enough people in your household, that can consume the sheep. You could have worded it in a very, very different fashion. As if we're not concerned about the family, rather we're concerned about the seh. The seh, the sheep, has become the central focus in the statement. Okay? Could have said, okay, and made that the central focus. Why must we slaughter it specifically on the 14th? And why bin ha'arbaim? Why, in the technically late afternoon? Okay, if you will. And what exactly is bin ha'arbaim? Say, b'boker, b'hasot hayom, ba'erev. What's bin ha'arbaim? Between the nights. And why put the blood on the lintel and the two doorposts? Does God really need a sign to be able to distinguish between his children and the children of Egypt? Can he not? Does he not know? This is the Almighty Borei Olam. He doesn't know where people are. Why must we only eat it at night? Why was Borei Olam so specific that it could only be roasted on fire? And why forbid the raw and that's boiled in water? Does God care about our taste buds, our preferential way of eating foods? What just doesn't make sense. And why specifically mention it's asur, it's forbidden to eat it raw, when general way things are among normal people is people get disgusted to eat raw meat. It's not something common that you have to say specifically don't eat it raw. And if there happens to be a particular individual that prefers something raw or prefers something, stewed, let's say, why forbid it? And why can't someone remain till the morning? And why must we burn whatever remains till the morning? And why must it be eaten while it has been basically folded up its head into its knees? And why we taste a delicious roasted lamb and eat it now with bitter herbs, as if God wanted to purposely ruin the good taste of the food. And there are many more questions. Okay, so you could tell the rabbi is, it has a purpose. We generally don't find so many questions. Now, since we mentioned that we may have been doing Abarbanel tonight, okay, and we're not doing Abarbanel, but the Abarbanel was notorious for questions. The Abarbanel generally will bring you, whether it's a pasuk or a portion from the Haggadah or a Mishnah from Pirkei Avot or whatever it may be, and you think, okay, he's going to start explaining it. He never explains it. First, he'll give you umpteen thousand questions to get your head bouncing back and forth, and then he'll put generally into a composition format his response. And he shows you how all the questions are interconnected, and the response really is one interconnected response. This is the style of Abarbanel. So maybe Rabbi Zaini is going to be doing something like Abarbanel tonight. Keep that in mind. And the most surprising and strange thing in this parasha is still not done. כי לגבי כל הקשור לאיסור חמץ ולחובת אכילת מסע התמיהות לא פחות מרבות, and everything tied into forbidding hametz and insisting on masa, we have also many questions. א', מדוע כל איסורי פסח בטחון זה, כמו כל חיובי אכילת מסעות, מופיעים אחרי כל הנוגע לקורבן פסח, כאשר בראשית הפרשה נכרכו יחדיו אכילת קורבן זה עם מסעות ומרורים. If you look, we read the Pesukim, if you look at Pasuk Het, right, it says, ואכלו את הבשר בלילה הזה שרי אש ומסעות על מרורים יאכלו. Okay? That's where he first talks about eating the masa. And then we don't see anything about hametz being forbidden or only allowing to eat masa until we get to Pasuk Tedvav. Why didn't he bring it up over there? Why did he have this pause of Pesukim Tet, Yod, Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Dal? What's going on? Why do we need 6 Pesukim in between? Get on with it. Tell us what we need to do. ומדוע ערב פסח מכונה בתורה היום הראשון? Why is ערב פסח referred to in the Torah as יום הראשון, the first day? בפרט כאשר כל בר דעת קורא בהקשר זה את הנוגע לשבעת ימי הפסח, מבין באופן טבעי מן הפסוקים שהיום הראשון... All right, give me 1 second. Okay. All right, so we're looking at the pasuk, right? ובפסוק שלאחריו עוד סתירה להבנת היום הראשון כיום ביעור החמץ, וביום הראשון מקרא קודש, וביום השביעי מקרא קודש יהיה לכם, כל מלאכה לא יעשה בהם, אך אשר יאכל לכל נפש ולבדו יעשה לכם. So now we're telling you ביום הראשון is מקרא קודש. That means you can't do any עבודה. You can't do any עבודה, how you burning חמץ. Keep it in mind. ג' וכאשר אנו מגיעים לתורה שבעל פה, הקושי מחריף עוד יותר, שהרי קובעים לנו רבותינו קביעה העומדת ללא ספק אחת ומיוחדת, ותופעה חידנית בתורתנו, היא קובעת איסור אכילת חמץ מתחיל באמצע היום ממש. And once we get to Torah Sheba'al Peh, the question that is burning more than anything else, the Hachamim have established for us, okay, a rule that everybody seems to agree with, okay, and it's just puzzling with the Pesukim of the Torah. It tells you asur, okay, becomes forbidden to eat hametz when? Basically about midday. אין בכל מצוות תורתנו איסור או חובה כלשהי המתחילה באמצע יום ומסתיימת באמצע יום, וזו כן. We have no other mitzvah, any place in the Torah, that either begins midday or ends midday. There is no such thing. What's going on? What is this? What's happening over here? So now he asked a bunch of questions. Let's hope we get to some answers. Before we go on, I think some of you may have some other questions. So anybody, raise your hand, please. No? Yes? Okay. על מנת להבהיר נקודות אלה עלינו להתחיל ללא ספק בנקודה אחרונה זו. בה דנו רבותינו באריכות בתלמוד. So the first thing, before we get to all other questions, because we have to look at the last question first, because this is something connected to Torah Sheba'al Peh, and the Hachamim dealt with it at length in Masechet Pesachim. שם נשאלה השאלה במלוא חריפותה, לכולי עלמא מהחמץ בשש שעות ומעלה. אסור? מן אהלן. Because the whole world knows, okay? Hametz is asur from the middle of the day, okay? From shesh sha'ot, from the 6th hour and onward. What is the source of this isur? Minala, from where? שאלה שאביה מיישבה באופן הבא. And what does Abaye say? תראה קראה כתיבה. There are two pesukim. Two things are said, two statements. כתיב, שבעת ימים שאול יימסר בתיכם. Right? 7 days שאול will not be found in your home. וכתיב, אך ביום הראשון תשביתו שאול מבתיכם. On that first day, you will remove Seor from your homes. Hakesad, how is that? Lirabot arba'a asar lebi'ur, to include the 14th day for bi'ur, for destruction. Destroying the Hamas, in other words. That's what Abaye had to say in the Gemara. Illa. שתשובתו זו אינה מניחה רבותינו שקטים בה משום שפירושים אחרים אפשריים עדיין. But obviously the Hachamim were not happy with this one little statement by Abaye, and they came up with other comments and other commentaries. פירושים לפיהם הימים המוזכרים באותם פסוקים אינם בהכרח ימים של ימים הכוללים יום ולילה, אלא ייתכן שנאמר בימים ממש. Not all days may be full 24-hour periods, but rather just talking about daytime. להדוף קושי זה, יראה לנו התלמוד שישנם שלושה דברים שהוגשו בתורה. The Talmud shows us there are 3 questions in the Torah. קרא, הועמדו על מישור אחד מבחינה הלכתית. Okay. השבתת שאור, right? השבתת שאור, getting rid of שאור. איסור אכילת חמץ, and אכילת מסע. So we have 3 things going on. 1, 2, and 3. Getting rid of the Hamas, or getting rid of Seor. Okay, we'll talk about, I like to refer to Seor as barley. Barley then, thus including the wheat and the other grains as well. The forbidden act of eating Hamas, and then eating Masa. הקשים אלו מחייבים אותנו אם כן לקבוע שהשבתת השאור חייבת להתבצע לפני 7 הימים בהם אסור ששאור יימסר בבתינו. Once we take these 3 points into consideration, we then must establish that that there has to be a time period that getting rid of the seor is a point in time prior to the point where we no longer eat hamas. So what is the point before then? Then it becomes the 14th day of Nisan. About אין זה מספיק כדי להסביר מדוע איסור זה תופס רק חצי היום ההוא. But that's still not enough to tell us why only half a day. ולכן נאלץ התלמוד או אביה להסתמך על טיעון נוסף. So then the Talmud, or more, maybe possibly more specifically Abaye, has to rely upon one more point. Ach, the word ach in the pasuk, okay, ach tells you means helik, it's a portion. Excuse me, right? We said the pasuk says ach b'yom harishon, so explain ach b'yom harishon means a portion, helik of yom rishon. Ti'un arechok b'liyot muban. שהרי אם אכן ברור שהמילה אח באה לסמסמה מנהלן שדווקא חצי היום. So if you want to say ach means a portion of the day, okay, or it's taking away a percentage of the day, how do you know it means half a day? Where does this come from? כנראה, מפאת כל זה ממשיך התלמוד להביא תוך סדר תמוה, דרך אגב אוסף של טיעונים אחרים בו דברי תנאים קדמונים, רבי ישמעאל, משמשים בערבוביה עם דברי אמוראים האחרונים, רבי נחמן ורבי יצחק, עד שבסופו של דבר רבי יחרוס משפט בקביעה המכריעה סופית שכל הדין נלמד מהכה לא תשחט על חמץ דם זבחי, לא תשחט על פסח ועדיין חמץ קיים. ותירוסו זו אינו שלו, אלא של רבי ישמעאל, מפורש הטעם, תניא מהכה, אך ביום הראשון תשביתו סבן בתיכם מערב יום טוב, או אינו אלא ביום טוב עצמו, תלמוד לומר, לא תשחט על חמץ דם זבחי, לא תשחט את הפסח ועדיין חמץ קיים. דברי רבי ישמעאל. So there's the opinion over here that comes through the words of Rabbi Ishmael that you have to have some sort of point. Okay, again, it's not clarifying that point, but because you have a pasuk that says Lo tishhat al hames dam zibhi, okay, do not, when you do a korban, you cannot do it on hames, this blood of the zebah of the sacrifice, okay. So so you come to learn Lo tishhat ha-pesach means what? Don't do the slaughtering of the korban pesach. The adain hames kayam, and hames still exists. Okay, so that means you have to have some sort of time between one and the other, but it still doesn't tell you how you come up with half a day. Abal. אם בסופו של דבר קיבלנו הבהרות מדוע בביטוי ביום הראשון הכוונה לערב חג המסות י"ד בניסן, מדוע איסור זה חל רק אחרי סהריים של יום י"ד זה, דבר אחד חשוב עדיין לא זכה להבהרה, והוא מדוע ניסח הקדוש ברוך הוא בתורתו בלשון כה מסובכת העלולה להטעות כל קורא. If this is really what it means, okay, and it doesn't seem from the Hachamim in the Gemara how clear their explanation is, obviously, but it's something that everybody accepts. Nobody's negating it, but it's still unclear and still debated among them to a point where we don't have a clear-cut answer, but we do have a clear conclusion. Why would Borei Olam present us with such a difficult and confusing pasuk that every reader is obviously, stumbled by? Medua harishon enu masayin be'emet hayom harishon. Why is this word rishon? Why does it not actually mean the first day? Ella hayom shlefanav. Why is it referring to the day prior to the first day? Okay, because Yom Rishon in the Pesukim is talking about the 15th day of the month of Nisan, and obviously over here we're talking about something beforehand, which is the 14th. Umadua ניסוח כזה שלא רק שהוא מקשה עלינו מסיבה לא מובנת, אלא גם נותן מקום למינים לערער ולהכחיש תורתנו וחושכן דברי רבותינו. And why have a pasuk like this that is so confusing that it actually gives the heretics some sort of room to come and basically go against Torah Sheba'al Peh and say that we don't know what we're talking about, and the Rabbanim are just making it all up. Okay? It doesn't make sense at all. ובכן, לגבי שאלה האחרונה, and regarding the last שאלה, זו שיש לשים לב שקיים עוד מקום אחד בתורה, okay? There's another place in the Torah, בו תופעה זו מתגלה בו, that such a similar experience appears there as well. מדובר בסיום התיאור של מעשה בראשית. We're talking about the end of מעשה בראשית, okay? The 7th day Borei Olam created, right? So we finished pasuk that says Yom HaShishi, and then we saw the next pasuk, ויחולו השמיים והארץ, בכל שבעם, right? Friday night in Kiddush we saw Yom HaShishi, ויחולו השמיים והארץ. But Yom HaShishi is the last two words of the previous pasuk, okay? So Borei Olam finished Yom HaShishi, and then ויחולו. Completed. ויחולו השמיים והארץ בכל שבעם, ואחד אלוהים מיום השביעי מלאכתו של עשה. איך פעילות שהסתיימה בשישה ימים מתוארת כפעילות הנגמר ביום השביעי? It makes it seem that the 6th and 7th day may have been the same day, may have been connected, may have run in from one day into the next. It's not clear. How is it possible? If the Shamayim and Aretz were finally completed on the 6th day, how do you come and say, ויחולו השמיים והארץ בכל שבעם אחד אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו של עשה? You already completed it on the 6th day. How are you coming again and you're saying you completed it on the 7th day? So this is the same type of question on Pesukim that we have over here, dealing with the Isur of Hames and Hashbatat Seor and Achilat Masa, 3 points, And we see the same type of issue with the Pesukim of Ma'aseh Bereshit, Yom HaShishi v'chulu Hashamayim v'aretz, etc. ובכן, ליישב את כל הקשיים האלה. Now he says how we're going to answer everything. Okay, that's what he's going to get to now. علينا לעמוד בדייקנות על כל פרטי התהליך בו נקט הקדוש ברוך הוא כדי להוציאנו ממצרים. The only way to be able to answer everything is we have to look at all the fine details of how the process went of Borei Olam taking us out of Egypt. תהליך זה של גאולת עולם של עם עולם. Okay, the process of the redemption of the world. This is the redemption of history for the nation of history. בוודאי מורכב מאוד הוא, it's very much intertwined, ובו שלבים רבים, and it has many, many different levels and phases to it. הראשון שבשלבים אלו היה בחירת המושיע. First stage was the choosing of the Savior. Moshe Rabbeinu, obviously, עליו השלום, היה צריך לגדול בפלטין פרעה על מנת להכיר את כל המכניזמים של התרבות המצרית על בוריים. First thing, Moshe Rabbeinu had to grow up in the palace of Paro to understand all the minutiae of Egyptian culture. Okay? Because if he didn't understand it, he wouldn't be able to work with it. He wouldn't be able to approach Paro. He wouldn't know how to deal with the situation at hand. רק אישיות המתמצא בכל המכניזמים אלה יכולה לנהל מאבק יעיל נגדם. Only somebody who's fully aware of all the details of the culture, of the mindset, of the inner workings of the palace, of the people, would be able to really put up the right force to combat it. ואכן, כשמשה רבנו עליו השלום נשלח אל פרעה החדש, הוא כבר מסויד באותות המבשרים את אופי הדרך בה יצטרך לנקוט כדי לגאול עמנו. So when Moshe Rabbeinu עליו השלום is sent to the new Paro, okay, he's already set up. Okay, he knows what he's going up against. He knows the culture of the Egyptians, he knows the heritage of the Egyptians, he knows the thinking of the Egyptians, and he knows the signs. He knows the, if you want to call it, the inner workings of their religion, okay, that will work to his advantage to bring about the, what do you call it, the exodus of Am Yisrael. אותות המבשרים גם את העתיד להתחרש בהתמודדות עם פרעה ומצרים כולה. He knew the signs to show Paro and the signs to show the people, to know, for everybody to realize this guy knows what he's doing and he's the chosen one. האות הראשון, הפיכת המטה לנחש. The first sign is changing that staff into the nahash. כבר בא לערער את כל התיאולוגיה המצרית. This comes to uproot, to upturn, okay, the entire Egyptian theology. ואף כל תפיסת עולמם, and in fact, the entire workings of their world. Okay, let me see what he put his footnote over here. Okay, now important. Hello, Nahash. We know the Nahash, okay? And doesn't make a difference if we're going to interpret Nahash as snake or as crocodile. For now, let's just think of the word Nahash, okay? מייצג בעיני מצרים את האל העליון. The Nahash is this reptile, this animal that represents their upper god, that God known as Atom, okay? המחולל את המציאות ואף את שאר האלים Okay, basically, he's the one that's hovering around their entire existence and dancing around all their other deities. Okay? והוא בעיניהם האל הנסתר שלא ניתן לשלוט בו. He is basically the top god, if you will. Okay? And he's hidden from view, but he's running the show. Okay? And nobody can touch him. He's untouchable. והנה שלא רק שולטים בו. Now over here, not only are we overruling him, we're playing with him. We're taking a dry piece of wood, we're taking a branch, we're taking a stick, and we're turning it into an ahash. So see, we're turning it into your God. We're going to play with your God. We're going to play with your mindset. Okay? The whole thing was a game. In other words, my God is coming to play with your God. So Moshe Rabbeinu was showing them when he turns his stick into the nahash. But I'm taking this stick, okay? I'm turning it into your God, okay? But who's turning it into God? Me, a human being. Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm flesh and blood, and I'm turning this dead piece of wood into your God. Let's have fun now. The game begins. That's what he's telling them. But for whatever reason, Paro, he doesn't flinch. For whatever reason, he's not surprised. He's not taken aback. Cheap magician's trick. Let me call my guys to do the same thing. Okay? And his response is a message to Moshe. אתה משה רצית להוכיח שהאלוהות מסוגלת להשיב לעצמה כל דבר במציאות ביש, ובכן אנו יודעים זאת היטב. This is what you think. Nobody knows that the human realm and the godly realm can't play with each other and use each other for whatever reason they need to. We know this also. No big deal. אלא שבכל זאת, לדבר אחד לא סיפר לו, לא פרעה ולא החרטומים. But there was one thing that Paro didn't expect, nor did his hartumim, okay, his magicians, his soothsayers. That the staff of Aharon actually swallowed up their staffs. At that moment in time, that was the game changer. That's when Mitzrayim went crazy. לפי זה, או שבתוך העולם האלוהי ישנה אפשרות כזו שחלק בולע חלקים אחרים, ואם כן ישנה הדרגה במציאות אלוהית, או שאהרון ומשה קישורים אל מקור אלוהי שונה בתכלית, והם מכלים אותו עתה כמתנשא מעל המקור האלוהי המסי שלהם. Because either Moshe and Aharon are tied into a different world, or they are actual messengers from their God coming to show them, you know, your God has sent us for you. One or the other. כיוון שהאפשרות השנייה עדיין אינה ברורה להם דיה, למרות גודל האות, הוא אינו מספיק כדי לערער ביטחונו הגס של פרעה. Since they can't really understand the concept of, you know, that there's another godly realm, that Moshe and Aharon could be tied in with other gods, and there could be other gods that are greater than theirs. So they don't even think about it much, and they don't know how to approach it because it's not something they've ever heard of. התערערות ביטחונם בתפיסת עולמם שהיינו יכולים לצפות לו לא בא, ומקומו בא הקשחה נוספת מצד פרעה. They expected initially, Moshe and Aharon expected, okay, here we go, we showed you the trick, and you're going to give in to our demands. They didn't expect Paro to keep going on. יש צורך אם כן להחל בתהליך שמוטט את כל תפיסה המסתית וכל תרבותה מן היסוד כדי שהמסתים יוכלו סוף סוף להכיר באמת. They didn't realize this is going to keep going on and on and on until Mitzrayim really learns what emet is, really learns the truth. עשר המכות הן שהיוו האמצעי לגילוי האמת האלוהי. The 10 Makot served a purpose, and their purpose was to show emet, to bring truth to the world. You have to remember, the Egyptian kingdom, the Egyptian religion, the Egyptian everything about Egypt. Egypt was the center of the world, if you will, on a spiritual level, on a physical level, on a financial level. You know, everybody came to pay homage to Paro and Egypt. Now, all of a sudden, these slave guys are coming to show Misraim and the entire world. You have to understand, everybody's now looking at Egypt. How is Egypt going to deal with this, you know, if you want to call this insurgents or a rebellion? What are they going to do? And here we have Moshe and Aharon coming as messengers of Borei Olam with Makkah after Makkah after Makkah. Each one of these Makot, each one of these plagues is to change the emunah of the world, change the faith, the foundation of faith, change the look of emet, of truth to the world. ואת מקח על מקח ביטחון המצרי יתערער עד כדי התפוררו של כל תרבותם. This basically shakes up the people, shakes up the ministers, shakes up everything in Egypt until everything breaks apart and it falls apart. And now he goes. He's going to start touching upon the different makot to show us what he's talking about. And he's going to go through each one of them. Haddam. We start with Dam. בעיני מצרים המים הינם יסוד העולם ויסוד החיים. He's telling you, in the eyes of Egypt, the water was the yesod of the olam, the foundation of the world and the foundation of life. And this is not only Misraim, this is for everybody. You take away water, that means instant death. Okay? והם זורמים דרך אותו שיחור, שאליו הם מתייחסים כסינור השפעת החיים. But this water is flowing. Anybody who's ever been to Egypt and seen the Nile, you know, when you think in your mind, you think of a river, okay, you think of a body of water. I was there in 85, okay, and I saw this body of water. You know how big the Nile is? You know how tremendous it is? How wide and how long and how powerful it is? Imagine all the waters you could think of. Imagine going to the beach, okay, you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean, and all of a sudden the Atlantic Ocean just turns all into blood, okay? But you're just looking at flat water. You're not seeing it flowing. You're not seeing it rushing down. It's amazing. So now all of a sudden, your foundation of life turns to blood. Blood, sickness, sickness, death, okay? הקדוש ברוך הוא הופך אותו לדם קרא למוות. Okay, blood is tantamount to death. ואכן הם צועקים מוות בכל מקום. Okay, they scream death all over. כך הבין גם פילון, כבר בספר חיי משה. Pilon was a Greek Jewish philosopher, historian, and a commentator on the Torah. He was a Jew from Alexandria, okay? And we're talking about back in the time when the Greeks were ruling there. And in his book, פתח והטיל בראשונה את העונשים הבאים מן המים, מאחר שחולקים המצרים כבוד מיוחד למים. Because the Egyptians gave a certain kavod, certain honor to the water. כי סבורים הם שיסוד זה הוא ראשית בריאת היקום, because they reasoned that water was the first creation. Without water, nothing else could have been created. ראה לקרוא למים בראשונה שיסרו ויוכיחו את מעריסיהם. And so once you attack the water, you've attacked the first foundation. Let's think of it. In the ancient world, they thought of 4 elements, right? Earth, wind, fire, and water. Okay? You had 4 elements only, not, you know, all the elements that we know of today. That was the 4 building blocks of anything. Okay? Whether it was, you know, earth or an animal or human being, everything was built upon those 4 things: earth, wind, fire, water. So now we took one of these elements and we totally knocked that out of the park. You knocked that out of the park, So if there's only 4 building blocks to human creation is now gone, because human creation cannot withstand on just 3/4 of the elements. Sephardeia, okay, we'll call it frogs, even though other Mefarshim may say otherwise. לאחר שהומר את שהם תופסים כמקור החיים למקור המוות, הקדוש ברוך הוא מוכיח להם שאפשר להפוך אותו בחזרה למוקד של חיים, אבל חיים שיהפכו את חייהם לסיוט. He goes, so now the water turned to blood. After a bit, they turned the blood back to water. But now Borei Olam shows them that now I could take something that you think turned back into life for you, from life went to death, from death back to life, and I'm going to take an animal that you associate with your water, okay, I'm going to take the frog, you associate it with the Nile River, and you're going to think, oh, look, beautiful, there's life back in the water, frogs are coming up, okay, the frogs are orbiting, they're doing what they have to do, they're jumping around, but so many of them that, yeah, life came back to the water, but now I'm going to make your lives like death, when you're going to be covered up with frogs at all times. So basically, Borei Olam is playing with them, playing with their minds, okay? That's what Rabbi Zaini seems to be showing us over here. I need to get a refill of water. Think of some questions. Give me a second, all right? Jeffrey, comments, questions, something? No?
Cool.
Kasola?
I'm just looking forward to the rest of the plagues. They're beautiful, beautiful explanations.
So far, everything, in general, Rabbi Zaini tends to be very, very thorough. Sometimes he gets a bit wordy, but he just, it's his style to drive home a point. Rabbi Nathan, anything?
Joey?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, David, I hear you.
All right, I'm not going to talk for 10 minutes this time, don't worry. So you're saying that once he brought, you're saying Sephardeia was the next plague.
I'm not saying, Rabbi Zaini is saying, yes.
Rabbi Zaini is saying this Sephardeia was the next plague specifically because it's an animal that came from the water.
Yes.
So in other words, we're going to bring it back to life. Show you there's life, but it's not going to be the life that the same life that you're used to. It's going to be frogs all over. It's not going to be the same life.
Basically, it's going to be a terrible life. It's going to be you thought we turned your water into death. We've restored it to life, but that life is now going to make your life miserable.
Right. According to one Perush on the Ibn Ezra, they were actually crocodiles, not
yes,
frogs.
And that's why I said we were going to talk about it as frogs.
Right.
I understand that.
No, but they're both water creatures, I'm saying.
Yes, they are. And they're both at the Nile. Correct. Absolutely. Okay, Rabbi Nathan, you're up.
I'm enjoying it.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I thought of this right away, and when I saw your face pop in tonight, I was happy to see you.
This class a lot, so just continue. I'm enjoying it.
We're going to continue. I need a little bit of break. That's all. Anybody else? Michael, Joey, David? No. Yes, somebody. Joey Batesh, what do you got?
No, we're good. Just enjoying.
Okay.
All good.
All right. Michael B., anything?
Loving it. Loving it. Very, very thorough. A million questions.
Questions, yes. I'm still thinking about so many of those questions from before.
Yeah, so he built up a lot of suspense. I'm hoping for,
yeah,
a nice finish.
I hope so. All right, let's continue and let's see where he goes with it.
Joey?
Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said before about Benel, because Abad Benel does this, right? He'll build it up and he'll go back to the beginning.
Absolutely.
He's not even in Perek Yod Bet right now. He went backwards to something earlier in order to build up to get to that point, which is exactly like right now he's not necessarily answering fully the questions. He's getting to that point like that Abad Benel does.
Absolutely.
That style. So
100%. I couldn't agree more. All right, we'll continue now. Now we finish with the dam and the Sephardiya. We go to Kinim. Okay, Kinim, what we know as lice. Bala Hayim Qatan Hazeh. Okay, this small little creature. שאינו נחשב לכלום לכאורה במסגרת של תרבות שאינה מכירה אלא עוצמה. This little bug, if you will, that's really not taken into consideration whatsoever, especially, in the culture of a nation that only knows itself as a nation of grandeur, okay? מראה שאפשר להפוך ייסורים קטנים לבעלי עוצמות אדירות וממרמרות את החיים עד כדי סיוט כאשר האיזון שהקדוש ברוך הוא שיצר הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו מופר. Okay? It's to show you that as great and as powerful as you think you are, I, Borei Olam, I'm taking the smallest of my creatures to bring you down. It's all it takes. You think you're all so high and mighty, and here I am, lice. You can barely see lice. And it's going to destroy you all. It's going to bring you down. ואכן, גם כאן, פילון מסביר, נשפך זרם של קינים, והם פשטו כעננים והשתלטו על מצרים כולה. He's saying that Philo rather, explains that basically there was a stream of lice, and they came about like clouds, and they basically overtook all of Egypt. Yisur zeh im hiyeto za'ir mad'ib ad me'od. This little creature, even though it's tiny, it is so annoying. כי לא זו בלבד שפוגע הוא בעור וגורם לגירויים מסיקים ומזיקים מאוד. Not only does it attack the skin and it causes you terrible infliction of pain and itching and scratching and everything that comes with it, אלא גם נדחק וחודר פנימה בעד הנחיירים והאוזניים. It's so small, it gets into your nostrils and into your ears. נכנס אפילו לתוך אישון העין, it even gets into the crevice of your eye, okay? ופוגם בה, and it hurts you, okay? And it hurts and does destruction. אם לא נזהרים בו, especially if you're not careful. וכיצד היו יכולים להיזהר מפני זרם כזה? And if you had a stream of lice, how could you be careful? מה גם שמיד אלוהים בא העונש, especially since it was the hand of God that brought about this punishment. Let's say you ask, משום מה פקד את הארץ באמצעות ייסורים כל כך פעוטים ופחותים, ולא פנה אל דובים, אריות, נמרים ושאר חיות טרף למיניהם האוכלות בשר אדם. Why did God turn to these tiny little things and not turn to, to let's say the bears and the lions and the leopards and all other types of wild animals, that could basically eat people alive. לפחות האפעים המסריים שנשארתם ממיתה לאלתר, at least, okay, kill them, finish it. Why make them suffer like this? אם באמת אינך יודע, צא ולמד. If you don't know, go and learn, ראשית. משום שכוונת האל הייתה להוכיח תושבי הארץ ולא לכלותם. Because God's intention was not to destroy the people of Egypt. He wanted to teach them a lesson. Okay? Put them in their place. Because if Borei Olam wanted to destroy them, he would not be using any sort of animals for his means. He would send a maggefa that comes from the Shamayim. Okay? And plagues. We've been dealing with coronavirus, okay, with COVID-19 for a year. We saw, and we're still seeing, unfortunately, what it can do and what it has done. Borei Olam wants to send a maggefa, not a problem. He doesn't need lice to do it. He wants to teach a lesson. He wants them to learn something. He's not out to destroy. Yeter al ken, more so. Let's learn something else. Something that is important for you for your entire life. What is it? When a human being goes out to war, you look for the weaponry, for the ammunition to be able to help you with everything you're doing. But now we're dealing with God, okay? He is the greatest and the mightiest of all strengths and all powers. He doesn't need anything at all. And if he, for whatever reason, he wants to use any sort of his creations, okay, to wreak havoc, he's never going to pick the high and mighty ones. Because he doesn't see them as high and mighty because he's greater than everything. He's going to pick the tiniest things. In our case, microbes, germs. That's what's happening right now in our world. He doesn't need to pick, high and mighty, strong, powerful, adversaries. The smallest things that we have no way of recognizing. That's what Borei Olam does. Gets you thinking a bit right now. Maybe the world right now is Mitzrayim. And through the means of these tiny things, that's when he starts doing wonders to those who are wicked. Like he did here. What is lowlier, okay, than a louse? הם עצמו עד כדי כך שמצרים כולה נכנעה ונאלצה לצעוק אצבע אלוהים הוא. It reached a point that the power, the might of this tiny louse caused the entire population of Egypt to scream out, this is God's finger. This is God. שכן באשר ליד אלוהים אף הארץ נושבת כולה מן הקצה לקצה לא הייתה יכולה לעמוד בפניה ויתרה מזו אף לא העולם כולו ועם קוטן כזה אחר חרטומי מצרים אינם מצליחים להתמודד זה נשגב מתפיסתם. At this point, even the Hartumim, they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't say anything. They even were in agreement with everybody else. This is God. That's it. It should have once again been game over. They learned the lesson. They saw the truth. Now we get to Arub. אם ללכת על פי דברי רבי יהודה, לסביר עליה בשמות רבה, שבחיות טורפות דווקא, okay, so let's say Arub is wild animals, okay, מדובר, כדאית ההתה, הביאו לנו דובים ואריות, they brought us bears and lions, כדי להיות המצרים מטיילים בהם, לפי כך הביא הקדוש ברוך הוא עליהם חיות מעורבבות ביהודה. רבי נחמיה אומר מיני סרעים ויתושים מנעים דבריו של רבי יהודה, לפי שבספר דעים כתיב וימותו ספר דעים, לפי שלא היה להן הנאה בעורותיהן והיו מסריחין את מצרים, אבל ערוב שהיה הנאה בעורותיהן, לפיכך לא נשאר בהם עד אחד, שאילו היו סרעין ויתושין, היה להם שיסריחו במצרים. So he's just explaining the different opinions as to what the Arab was. I don't think it's has any relevance to what we're saying, so I'm not going to translate it. Anybody thinks I need to? I will. Raise your hand. No. Okay. שרובן, אם לא כולן, היו נעבדות במצרים, כפי שמדגישים רבותינו כולם שם, לפי שהמצרים היו משתחווים לבהמות כאלוה. Now, most of the animals, it seems, were worshipped in Egypt, according to our Hachamim. דרך 3 ימים נלך במדבר כדי להטעותם. היום משה, הנה אנוכי יוצא מעמך, ועתרתי אל אדוני. מהו הנה? מיד. התפילה תהיה מיד, כדי שיסור הערום ממך מחר. هذا هو דכתיב, וסע הערום פרעה ועבדיו ועמו מחר, ויעש השם לדבר משה, ויסור הערום. I don't understand what he wants to tell us with this either. יש במקרם משום הפיכת האלים לאויבי עובדיהם ולעבדים נטרפים על ידי ידידיהם. All right, so he concludes it by saying, though, that this particular plague, the one of Arab, mishum hafichat ha'ilim le'oyebe obdehem. Since the Egyptian people worshipped these animals, okay, so now these animals are like gods. So now the gods turned upon those who worshipped them. And not only did they worship them, but those who worshiped them were basically attacked by their gods. So, okay, you think your gods are all so great to protect you, even your very own gods are turning on you. So if your own gods are turning on you, you have no protection whatsoever against the God of the Israelites. That's what he's coming to tell us over here. Okay, David. شوب هفيخات المكاشة كادمة אין בה גילוי של עוצמה וחיים. אלא דבר, מה נורא יותר ונורא מכל מבחינת מצרים? אלים מתים אלים, שהרי לא היה כבקר וסון אלילי מצרים, הפנתיון המצרי נטרף מפניהם. Once again, what Borei Olam do? Pestilence, kill off the animals. You worship the animals, they're gone. You eat the animals, they're gone. Basically, what's happening? Nothing's happening at all. But you're not living anymore. Your life is crumbling. Shahin, boils. Shu pigi'a beguf ha'adam. Once again, let's attack the human body. Okay, like with kidim, with the lice, we said that's attacking the body. So now with the shahin, with the boils, it's attacking the body. V'gam al ze omrim, kama marabotenu, shelo yachlu ha'hartuim la'asot ken. That the hartuim were not able to replicate this makkah of boils. אומנם תמוה כיסת הדבר שיש צורך לציין זאת שהרי החרטומים עשם גם לקו בשחין. What's the point of mentioning that he's telling you, since they themselves were also smitten by the boils? So why would they want to even attempt to replicate it? They were too busy trying to treat themselves. כדאיתתם, בכל מכה ומכה שהביע הקדוש ברוך הוא במצרים, הם היו מוסיפים מכה על מכה עד שהביע הקדוש ברוך הוא עליהם את השחין ולא יכלו לעמוד ולעשות כן, שנאמר ולא יאכלו החרטומים. Okay. Next, barad. Okay, barad is that hail with the fire, supposedly, right? Makazo hofechet et Misraim al panea. This basically turns the entire country on its face. Shari eres hamma zo enovidat migishim. This is a hot tropical country, but tropical not in the sense of tropical rain, but just dry heat. It doesn't know rain. Annual rainfall in Egypt is less than a fraction of an inch per year. Okay? So they don't know rain. They're getting barad now, they're getting hail. You don't get hail in the desert regions. לתיאולוגיה המצרית שהפכה את כל כוחות הטבע לאלוהות. This is a culture that turned all types of climatic and natural elements into some sort of gods to be worshipped. ובעיקר מפאת תופעות הטבע הקבועות באזור זו של העולם, because it's such a temperate climate where the weather is constantly going to be the same, nothing is changing. It's very easy to turn, let's say, for example, the sun into a god. Okay? No big deal. The sun's out and shining in Egypt every day of the year. So it looks like a god. It seems like a god. But now all of a sudden, hail? Where's that coming from? What kind of God is this fighting with our God again? All of a sudden, the entire education, entire theories that they have about nature, about the world, once again, ripped out from underneath them. This is another appearance of a new deity that they've never known before, because they looked at all aspects of nature as deities, as gods. Arbe, the locusts, כבוד גדול רחשו לה המצרים מפני כוח ההרס שבו, עד כדי כך שראו בו ממד אלוהי, ולכן מכה זו בעיניהם היא עוד אלוהות שלהם מפחד נגדם. They thought they had control on their agriculture. Okay, they had food. They survived when the rest of the world didn't survive. Remember, the time period of Yosef was still in the minds of the people, in the minds of the king, that everybody came from around the world to Egypt to get food. They never lacked food. They never lacked anything. Food supply is now gone. Okay, it's another attack by the gods on Egypt that never lacked. Hoshech, he pigi'a b'nizgab b'kol b'ayne Mitzrayim. Hello, Elilam ha'ikari he Hashemesh. See, a moment I told you, they worship the sun. The sun was their main god. Okay, because the sun shone 365 days a year. You see it. If you go to any sort of display of Egyptian antiquities, you see the sun. I think the sun god is called the Ra, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and now you bring the Hoshech, 3 days of darkness. That's it. You killed our god. Once again, boom, getting rid of the god. It's to show them that their entire religion, their entire belief system is faulty and nonsensical. Finally, Makat Bechorot. Okay, the killing of the firstborn. Kol tifisat Mitzrayim, לפיה הם עדית האדם. They saw themselves as the people. They were the first DNA of the world, if anything. בני בכורי ישראל מתגלה בעולם כאותו עם נשגב ומיוחד שתפקידו נגנב על ידי המצרים. Okay? Borei Olam refers to Am Yisrael as Beni Bechori Yisrael. The Egyptians stole it from them by looking at themselves and at and everything about them as first and foremost and number one. You're number one? Let me show you, Borei Olam. Let me show you who's number one. I'm going to take all your number ones, gone. Imagine, think about it for a second. Forget about a country. Just think of one block, any place you live. Let's say you have entire block, 20 homes. It's a small block. Imagine the firstborn Ben Minan just falling dead in every one of those 20 homes. What's the mindset now of the entire neighborhood? Gone. Your entire morale shot, destroyed forever. Now doing it to a whole country. That's it. אבל אין ספק שעיקר הפגיעה בכל תרבות מצרים, בכל המערך התיאולוגי אלילי שלה, בא לידי ביטוי בכל חריפותו בהלכות קורבן פסח. שהרי עיון מעמיק בכל הדרישות האלוהיות לגבי קורבן זה, החובות, האיסורים, הציוויים, הכישורים, באים גם כן הם כולם כדי למוטט את מצרים. Now he's bringing us back, Rabbi Zaini, back to the Korban. Okay? So everything with the Korban, okay, brings us back to this mindset of the Egyptians and their gods. Okay? ואכן, מצרים הייתה רגילה לחגור בפאר גדול את החג הגדול ביותר של השנה בשעת כניסת תקופת מזל טלה. Their biggest holiday is based upon the solar cycle, okay, and the zodiacs, and specifically when the sun enters the sign of Taleh, Taleh being the ram, okay? כל פרטי הדינים של קורבן פסח מתבהרים לאור עובדה זו. So everything having to do with Korban Pesach are also tied into that as well. We know Nisan, okay, we're saying Rishon hu lachel lechodshei hashana, and we also know it has to be tied into Chodesh HaAbib. Therefore, even though our calendar is set upon a lunar cycle, it's on a solar cycle at the same time, where they have to work together. And therefore, the month of Nisan basically falls out of the time of the year as the zodiacal cycle of the ram. Okay? This is your holiday, right? Okay, Egyptian people, this is your holiday. This is your time of the year. This is when you're going to celebrate your deity. Let me show you what we're going to do now. We're going to kill it. We're going to destroy it. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it as a pet. We're going to do shahita with it. We're going to take the blood of it, and we're going to play with it with like paint. Okay? Basically, shoving it in your faces. And then we're going to bring us a korban, and we're going to eat it all together with our swords in our hands, ready to come and kill you if you dare come near us. If anything remains, we're going to burn it as well, so you could smell it in your streets. Everything about our month of Chodesh Harishon is tied into everything that Borei Olam has been showing you until now with each and every Makkah. Every plague is there to change your emunah, to destroy what you held true for so many centuries. We're going to show you it's all fake. Borei Olam is telling you, and we're going to show you what the truth is, and this truth is going to last on in Am Yisrael le'ol me'ad, forever. Let's hope at least I understand what Rabbi Zaini wants to say, because I just made this up. Let's see what he has to say now.
Israel, or for the Egyptians, or?
I'm sorry?
You know about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is that for Am Yisrael specifically? Or is that also for the Egyptians, or both groups?
I think it's for both groups, and it's definitely for both groups. Definitely for both groups. As far as the Egyptians, they're going to realize it right away. As far as Am Yisrael, they're also going to see it right away. The problem is, are they going to remember it lidorot? And that we have somebody like Rabbi Zaini has to write this, and we have to study it. Obviously, we didn't remember it lidorot. Okay. ואכן, מצרים הייתה רגילה לחגוג בפאר גדול את החג הגדול ביותר של השנה בשעת כניסת תקופה מזל טלה. כל פרטי הדינים של קורבן פסח מתבהרים לאור עובדה זו. Okay, all the details of קורבן פסח come to light here. בי"ד בניסן חגגו המצריים את החג של האל רע, שבעל החיים מתגלם אותו הוא דווקא הטלה. So Rabbi Zaini is telling you they actually had a holiday on the 14th of Nisan. I don't know where he gets that from exactly. I definitely need to look into that further to find out what the source is exactly and how that's calculated. But in any case, you're saying that we're taking specifically, part of the ram family. We're taking the sheep. Mazzalo shel oto chodesh, okay, which is the sign for that month. B'hakrabat kebis, by bringing the korban of a kebis, of a sheep. לשם כך, הם היו מכינים את הכבש הזה כמה ימים לקראת הופעתו הציבורית. They would prepare this lamb a few days before its public appearance. ומשום כך דרש הקדוש ברוך הוא, and therefore בורא עולם made this request of the people, בעשור לחודש, on the 10th of the month הזה, ויקחו להם איש שה לבית אבות של הבית, each one take a sheep for the household, והיה לכן למשמרת, watch over it, עד 14 יום לחודש זה, till the 14th of the month. והם היו שוחטים אותו בי"ד, and they did שחיטה on it, they slaughtered it on the 14th. לכן באה התורה ודורשת לשחוט אותו בי"ד, and therefore the Torah requested do the shahita, the slaughtering on the 14th. אבל מתי בדיוק, but when exactly? בבין הערביים, to do it at בין הערביים. ומדוע and why? משום why? שבחסות יום היו החגיגות המסריות מגיעות לשיאן. Because every year the climax of the Egyptian celebrations would happen on that day at midday. בשעה שהשמש זורחת במלוא עוצמתה, when the sun was at the center of the sky, shining as brightly and as strongly as possible. Okay, and exactly the point of Hasot, midday. ולכן, ציווה הקדוש ברוך הוא לשחוט את הכבש בדיוק ברגע זה. And therefore the Torah commanded us to kill this Korban Pesach, kill the sheep, do the shahita exactly at that moment. ושחטו אותו כל קהל עדה ישראל בין הערביים. Okay? וכדברי חז"ל, כי נטו שרי ערב. Right at that moment when day starts turning, okay, from day to night. Midday, that's when things switch over. אבל עד כאן המשותף. Until this point, this is where things are the same, or paralleled, or shared. מכאן והלאה, העימות התיאולוגי מעשי. Now, let's talk about different issues of practical theology. המצרים אסרו לאכול כבש זה כל הלילה. Okay? The Mosseri, they forbade eating this kibbush the entire night. לכן הסתווינו דווקא לאכול אותו בלילה. Therefore, we will command specifically to eat at night. ואכלו את הבשר בלילה הזה. למחרת הם היו מוכרים את בשרו בכיכר המרכזית לזרים, לא למוסרים. Okay, the next day they would sell the flesh of the animal in the central squares, okay, to foreigners, not to native Egyptians. לכן הסתווינו, therefore we will command the opposite, ולא תותירו ממנו עד בוקר, do not let it remain till the morning, והנותר ממנו עד בוקר באש השרופו. Anything that does remain till the morning, make sure you burn it. הם היו חייבים לאכול אותו נע ומבושל. They were commanded to eat it either raw or boiled. לכן אל תאכלו ממנו נע ובשל מבושל במים. Therefore we will command the opposite. It's אסור to eat it raw or boiled. היה אסור להם לאכול אותו שדה אש. For them it was forbidden to eat it grilled, roasted. Okay, לכן הסתווינו ואכלו את הבשר בלילה הזה שדה אש ומסור על מרורים יאכלוהו. We were commanded, the opposite, to eat it roasted. הם היו מעטרים את פתחי בתיהם ומשקופיהם בענפי זית וענפי אש שמן. They would decorate the entranceways of their homes, especially the doorposts, with olive branches and, what do we call it? Olive branches and flowers, okay, if you will. לכן הסתווינו ולקחתם אגודת אסוב. Therefore we will command to take bunches of hyssop or thyme. Think of it as za'atar, okay? ותבלתם בדם אשר בסף, and dip it in the blood, והגעתם אל המשקוף, and to paint your lintels and your doorpost. And then don't leave your homes. Now, this is all very interesting. I don't know where Rabbi Zaini found this particular information. I'm definitely going to be searching around. If anybody has information on ancient Egypt and, their celebrations for Ra and what they allowed or just didn't allow, I'd like to know. So if you could forward that to the group, that'd be wonderful as well. במילים אחרות, כל הדרישות שהדרשת ברוך הוא ממנו לגבי קוראן פסח זה באו כדי לתבוע ממנו כזכות מצדיקה את שחרורנו ממצרים, את המוכנות מצדנו לנהוג כנגטיב של מצרים בכל פולחנם. Everything בורא עולם commanded of us was to be the negative of what they did. In other words, the opposite. Everything we were commanded was to show we are not them. They are not us, and everything Borei Olam commanded us to do was the exact opposite, the flip side of what they were doing to distinguish us from them. But we have no zechut to leave the country or for any nisim, any miracles to happen for us if we don't have action. את מכלול אותה תרבות בתוכה התבוללנו עד כדי שמלאכי השרת באו בטענה ובני ישראל הלכו ביבשה בתוכה. Okay. Bottom line is we had to change our ways. We were so what's the word I'm looking for? התבוללנו come on, somebody help me out here.
Consumed?
No, not consumed.
Culture.
No. What's the word? Come on.
Within the culture, you mean?
Yeah. There's a word, a simple word in English. We all know the word.
Swallowed into. No.
You're all explaining it, but it's not the word. It's
assimilated.
Assimilated. Thank you. Exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. Okay, we were so assimilated into their world. After 200 plus years, okay, we had to wake up. So these nisim, these makot that Borei Olam did, they were for us as well. It wasn't just for the Mosseri to change their way. It was for us to wake up and remove ourselves from this assimilated world that we were in. For us to push it all aside. Okay, and that's the pasuk, okay, okay, that was on the sides, right? Okay, we had this on the side. We were also on the side. We were on those fringes of society, if you will, of a society that was foreign to us, and we had to bring ourselves back through these actions that Borei Olam was showing us. So this was to bring back imunah to Am Yisrael, as well as to show Mitzrayim what the true imunah was. And it reached a point that we were so assimilated that Malachei Shariat, Borei Olam's angels, okay, they said, well, on top of page 269, we have 2 pages left only. While Bnei Israel was walking through Yam Suf, והיו מלאכי השרת תמהים לומר בני אדם עובדי עבודה זרה מהלכים ביבשה בתוך הים. בורא עולם, what are you doing? These people have been serving עבודה זרה time and time again, and you're doing a miracle for them that you're making them walk through a river, a dry riverbed. How is that? Or like the words of the midrash, elu megale arayot ve'elu megale arayot. Okay, makes no difference. The Bnei Israel or Bnei Mitzrayim, they're both megale arayot. They're both, exposing themselves. Elu shufchei damim ve'elu shufchei damim. The Misrim and the Israelim, all murderers. Why are you causing these to drown, in Yam Suf, and these to walk through like nothing at all? What's going on? החירות האמיתית מתגלה רק דרך היכולת והמוכנות הזו לדחות על הסף תרבות מקיפה קלוקלת האוכלת בנו בכל פה אף אם גדולה ועוצמתית לגבר עליה. Bottom line is, because we pushed it away, because we accepted that Borei Olam is the one and only true God, and the only one and only true religion, and because we accepted it, and Borei Olam saw that we accepted it, were even people from the Egyptians who accepted it as well, and they were able to join Am Yisrael because they accepted it, and they also were able to come through. Those who accepted it became part of Am Yisrael as well. But it's all about us remembering Borei Olam and having this imunah and having the bittahon and having the debekut, like Rabbi Zaini says. We have to cling to Borei Olam, cling to Torah, cling to Torah Sheba'al Peh as well. Okay. קורבן פסח היינו אם כן עוד דוגמה הממחישה כמה חש היטב הרמב"ם. Okay, now he's going to go to Harambam. And show you this Korban Pesach is just a sample of how much in touch Harambam was, how he saw the ideas, the concepts, and how he felt them. ויותר מכל חכם בדורו או בדורות הבאים אחריו, and more so than even the rabbis in his generation or those afterwards. את כוונת השם בתורתו כאשר קבע באופן נחרץ במורה נבוכים אשר לו, when he established in his מורה נבוכים in a manner that nobody else has, שבמצוות רבות בא לידי ביטוי המלחמה הבלתי מתפשרת נגד המגמות האליליות שבעולם. We have a war that is waging in the world, okay? And we're in this war, and we're part of this war. ויצליח בסעדו זה לקומם, ואף להשגות לא מעט מרבותינו עד הדור האחרון. And this is a war that is waging on and on, generation and generation, you know, with us, with the people, and with the Hachamim. And here he quotes down, המזוות הכלולות בכיבוסה האחת עשרה הן שמנינו במה שנותר מספר עבודה או בספר עבודה ובספר קורבנות. Because Harambam, as we know, has 14 sefarim in his Mishneh Torah. Because, and you have the mizvot in Sefer Avodah and the mizvot in Sefer Korbanot. I already mentioned, you know, their purpose as a general rule. נתחיל עכשיו לתת טעם לכל אחת מהן על פי השגתנו. Because I can give you now, and I'm going to give you, an explanation and a reasoning behind each and every one of them. ונאמר, כתוב בתורה, כמו שפירש אונקלוס, שהמצרים הקדמונים היו עובדים את מזל טלה. Okay, the ancient Egyptians worshipped the zodiac sign of Taleh, of the ram. לכן היו אוסרים לשחוט צאן ושונאים רועי צאן. Okay, it was forbidden for them to slaughter any sort of sheep, and they hated any shepherds. נאמר הנזבח את תועבת מצרים, right? We have the pasuk. You know, we're going to be able to bring korbanot of the Egyptians that they worship. And we know from the Pesukim that obviously any person that was a shepherd was hated by the Egyptians. And there were people that would worship shedim, and they believed that the shedim were dressed like goats. And we know that till today. Think about it. I'm sure you could think of things that happened fairly, you know, in the fairly recent past, you know, where images of goats having to do with demonic culture have come up. לכן, קראו shedim שעירים. Therefore, they called the shedim שעירים. תפיסה זאת הייתה נפוסה הרבה מאוד בימי משה רבנו. And this mindset was very common in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu. ולא יזבחו עוד את זבחיהם לשעירים, אשר הם זנים אחריהם. And you no longer can bring zebahim, you can't bring any more sacrifices to the shedim. לכן היו אותן כבוסות גם אסורות לאכול עזים. It was forbidden for them to also to eat goat. כמעט רוב עובדי עבודה זרה שונאים שחיטת בקר. Most idol worshippers, okay, they actually abhor slaughtering of animals. כולם היו מכבדים אותו מן מאוד. Basically because they saw these animals as being part of their god system. לכן אתם מוסר שהיהודים אינם שוחטים בקר כלל עד ימינו אלה. And if you see the Indians, okay, people from India, the Hodim, they don't slaughter animals, okay, until our very day. אפילו בארץ בה שוחטים שאר מיני בעלי חיים. Okay, they don't do it. You know, they may slaughter chicken, okay, but give them a mammal, they don't do it. It goes against their religion, their godly belief system. Their gods is Avodah Zarah, and the Avodah Zarah system is connected to the animals which they see as gods. כדי למחות את עקבותיהם של דעות לא נכונות, אלא סובנו להקריב שלושה מיני מקנה אלה דווקא. And to go against this system of demonic worship and the connection between demons and animals, we as a nation were commanded specifically to bring korbanot from 3 types of animals, and only 3 types of animals. من البقر ومن الصون تقريبا القربانخيم, right? Throughout the Torah we see it. من البقر ومن الصون, من الصون ومن البقر. كده שבמעשה שאותו חשבו להסיע עבירה יתקרבו לאל. Even those who want to go against God, once you get into the habit of bringing these korbanot, you can't go against God, because other godly systems can't tolerate this. ובמעשה הזה יכופרו החטאים. And this is how your sins become atoned, because you're getting closer to God and you start worshiping God, and you cling to Him, and then you cling to the Torah, cling to the mitzvot, cling to the words of the Hachamim. כדי כך תרפאנה הדעות הרעות. This is how we heal the warped thoughts. שהן מחלות הנפש האנושית. These are internal sicknesses of the human soul. באמצעות הניגוד שהוא הכיסא השני. By doing the exact opposite of the opposite that we don't want. לשם אותו תכלית עצמה נסתווינו לזבוח את כבש הפסח. For this same purpose we were commanded to bring the Korban Pesach with a sheep. ולהזות את דמו במצרים. And to sprinkle its blood in Mitzrayim, al hash'arim bahus, upon the doorpost, the outer doorpost, for everybody to see. Okay, to separate ourselves from these ideas. Once it's on the doorpost, it separates us. People that see that don't want to come in, and they don't want us to come out. Oh, you're one of those people. We don't want you here. Okay, you stay behind that doorpost, behind that closed door. You're different. You don't do what we do, and we don't do what you do. No way. Okay, and we have to publicize that we're the opposite. Okay, and we have to basically acquire, okay, this imunah through our actions. You thought that something is going to kill you? Okay, the people were afraid. You know, how we're going to do this? How we're going to take the animals of the Egyptians and we're going to hold on to them and we're going to kill them. They're going to come and attack us. No. Do it. This is what's going to save you. Okay? Okay? And again, I'm going to say, and God's going to pass over, okay, the petah, but that passing over is the compassion that Borei Olam is watching over us, you know, to make sure nothing happens to us because we are now clinging to Him. Betor Sachar, this is the reward. Al Matan Presum L'Siyut Al Hagat. This is a reward for us publicizing that we are not doing what they want us to do, and we are, what do you call it, and we're distancing ourselves from them, from their ma'asim, from their actions, and from their thought process. And they're disgusting of the people who worship the idols. هو التعم بحيرات شلوشة هالمينيم هائلة دافكة لقربان بنصاف ليود مينيم إلا حيوت بايت همسويوت لارو. And also the animals we're commanded to bring are domesticated animals, animals that, you know, easily found and are considered for the most part tame. إنه كما عسى وبدأ عبد زرا شيء مكريم أريود دوبين بحيوت بار كموش السويان بالتمتوم. Okay, and also Abdi Awad Zara would not only bring these type of animals, they would also bring all types of wild animals. It's not uncommon for us to hear of them bringing korbanot of lions and bears and all types of wild animals as well. Imkain, last page. ברור מאוד היה בעיני הרמב"ם שכל עבודת קורבן פסח הינה הנגטיב של כל תרבות מצרים. So to Harambam was crystal clear that the whole concept behind the Paschal sacrifice was to be the negative, or the sheer opposite, we would say, of the Egyptian culture. ושאין כי יציאת מצרים כדי להוכיח עד כמה צדק בנקודה זו אף יותר מראיה קוק זכר צדיק לברכה בזהותו בסיוויי השם את אותו מאבק נגד עבודה זרה שהרי לנגד עינינו מתייצבות כל חובת פסח בקורבנו כדי להוכיח ולהעיש דברי רבנו משה ורבנו מימון זכר צדיק לברכה אמת. So, what did he tell us over here, Rabbi Zaini? Then he goes on and he says that there is nothing like Yetziat Mitzrayim, the whole Yetziat Mitzrayim, meaning the entire episode, the entire story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. There's nothing like it to prove truth and righteousness. And on this note, he's saying, Rabbi Abraham Yitzhak Kohen Kook, okay, he identified this commandment of Hashem as being on that level to negate Avodah Zarah, because in front of us we saw the obligation of Pesach and its Korban, and it was to come and prove a point and to give testimony that the words of Moshe Bar Maimon, in other words Harambam, are emet. Ella, שייתכן שראה הרמב"ם במאבק זה רק מהלך חינוכי רוחני הבא לנתק את אבותינו מאליליות. It is possible to say that Harambam didn't put this all together and he only saw it as a way to disconnect us, you know, from this worship of other gods. כאשר למען האמת מדובר ביותר מזה, במלחמת חורמה נגד כל נטייה אלילית שבעולם ובעקובה יסודותיה, וכפי שהוכח מאמרנו על בשר בחלב, נטיות אליליות אלו חיות וקיימות בלב חלקים נרחבים של האנושות, אף המשכילה ביותר עיין שם. So he says, I have another article, Rabbi Zaini is telling you, about basar b'halab, and there I show you that there are some very, very strange, warped ideas in the mind of even the most enlightened people that really take us back to pure idol worship, pure worship of animals, you know, and of demons and things that are foreign to Judaism. And these type of people are the type of people that I may be referring to in the beginning in my introduction, that they come across with, you know, this image that they are trying to teach you Torah, but their Torah is warped because it doesn't follow the path of our Hachamim, it doesn't follow the path of Yetziat Mitzrayim. ומודה אני שלא נגעתי כאן בבעיה חשובה שאין כמותה, והיא שלא ייתכן שאנו זקוקים לשלול כל תוכן תרבות מצרים בכל דור ודור, אם תרבות זו לא הייתה כוללת גם בעבודתה האלילית רעיונות רציניים ביותר שהראו אותם אז. העולם האלילי הקודם לא היה עריך של בורות ותפסות כדי שסיירה אותה בגסות רוחה המאה הילדותית והרדודה, אין כדותריה ומתפשו ביותר המאה ה-19, כבר במקום אחר הערכת להוכיח שכהני עבודה זרה היו אינטלקטואלים חכמים לערוך יותר מעמיתיהם בדורנו. But in fact, the people of this ancient time were even possibly more intellectual than the people of our very day. And don't think that this is a culture that we don't have to worry about or something that's not ingrained in us, because unfortunately it's very much ingrained and it's something that has to still be uprooted and taken out. ובאמת, לאחר שהעברתי לפני שנים רבות נושא זה לפני הציבור, הקשה אחד מחברי הקהילה, אם כן התורה תלויה בתרבות מצרים. He goes, years ago when I first started expressing some of these ideas in public, he goes, somebody in the crowd said, oh, so our entire Torah is based upon Egyptian culture. You know, that was the guy's question or statement. And Heshabti, and I answered, Halila v'has. You know, God forbid, of course not. Adrabba v'adrabba. Tarbut Mitzrayim zikuka Yisrael. Kedei l'ased metumata. If anything, the Egyptian culture has to be reliant upon Am Yisrael to remove itself from its impurities. Kemo kol tarbut enushit aheret. HaTorah ba legalot ha'emet ha'emunit ba'olam. The Torah came to prove to the entire world what is right and what is wrong and what is emet and what is godly and what is not godly. And it started there at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim, because that's where God first really appeared, you know, in this whole concept of the Makot, to show the people that you have to break this warped way of thinking that you have. And everything that happened after that, the entire way the world started to change to a more, if I don't call it a Torah-related theology, started at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim. התורה באה לגלות האמת האמונית בעולם, ומעצם היותה אמת, היא מנגשת חזיתית עם כל אמונה פסולה ולובשת בכל דור ודור צורה של ניגוד לתרבות פסולה שלטת. מצדן התרבויות הקלקולות הינן בעצמן סטייה מן האמת, ולכן האמת כוללת תמיד את כל הדרוש כדי להגיב עליהן. ועל תרבות מצרים על אחת כמה וכמה, כיוון שהיא התרבות הבסיסית אליה שלח אותנו הקדוש ברוך הוא כדי לצאת מאור העולם. אם כן, התנגדות למצרים היא כבר התנגדות לכל המצרים למיניהם שהתגלו בעולם במהלך ההיסטוריה, והתנגדות למצרים היא התנגדות לכולן. He goes, Mitzrayim, okay, ancient Egypt was just the first culture, but these cultures that come out against the Torah, you know, and with different ideas, or even take our really strange leftist culture of today with ideas that definitely go against our Torah beliefs. This is the Mitzrayim of today. He goes, and in each generation, bechol dor vador, like we say in the Haggadah, you know, we have to, they're trying to come to raise themselves up to destroy us. והקדוש ברוך הוא מסירנו מידם. בורא העולם keeps saving us from them again and again. And how does he save us? He saves us with the Torah. But we have to know the Torah. We have to connect to the Torah. We have to understand the Torah. We have to understand the message of the Torah at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim to carry it forward to our families for each and every generation. דווקא משום סנטיות אליליות אלה שזרות בעומק נפשה של כל תרבות אנושית לא יהודית. לא חדל עמנו להידרש למאבקים מסוג זה בכל דור ודור, בכל ארץ וארץ. And because of this, and the nations of the world know this, they keep coming against us. Each one thinks they're going to beat us, some way, somehow. Babel, Paras, Yavan, Roma, Sefarad, Sorfat, Germania, Russia. So all of them. Take Babylonia, Persia, Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, all of them, they all try to do it. And today, the entire world, both West and East, okay, except for possibly Islam, they're all trying to get us, but obviously Islam as well, to us in a different way. So why does Borei Olam keep putting us in these positions? משום שאין עם ישראל יוצא מן הכוח אל הפועל, אלא רק דרך אותן ההתמודדויות עם כל התרבויות הגדולות שבאנושות, שמקומן ולתוכן because we don't learn our lesson. The only way we keep getting close to Borei Olam is when we have to turn to him. Otherwise, we just lay back and whatever happens, happens. Well, it's only when we're pushed against the wall that we go running back to Borei Olam. And that's why we're still in that position. כל התמודדות היא עבורנו עוד הזדמנות להוציא לאור עוד מימד נוסף המאיר את העולם. And we have to use these opportunities to bring out another spark, another light, another way of shining through. המאיר את העולם באור השם. And we have to enlighten the entire world with the light of בורא העולם, כדבעי מסד ממלכת כהנים ורוי קדוש, like is appropriate for a nation of priests and a holy people. And this is what Rabbi Zaini has to say. I think it's a fantastic explanation of Yetziat Mitzrayim, explanation of the Korban Pesach, how the ideas of it basically negate everything that was going on in ancient Egypt and what we have to teach our families in light of Jewish history and the cultures that we currently live in. You know, whether we're in the United States or we're in Europe or Australia or any place at all. I'd like some sort of feedback. Somebody, anybody.
I think possibly that relates to this.
Sorry?
It's to this question of what we're talking about.
Well, Rabbi Eliyahou Zaini brought up a lot of different points over here. So really anything that's connected, anything that you liked or disliked, any point that really resonated, something that you think should have been expanded upon, anything at all. I think I personally liked the article very much. I think it gave us a lot of very important information. Yes, Michael, what were you saying?
I like the parallels between what he understood was the practice in Egypt for the for their holiday, and how we turned it on its head. It had nice symbolism.
Very much so. I'd like to see more source information for that, though.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that was the only thing. I never really heard of it before, but maybe I'm sure it exists somewhere, you know, if he's quoting it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was good. And then how he goes through every makkah.
Sure, maybe you could email him, Joey. He'll give you the source.
I don't have to email him. I WhatsApp him all the time.
The chat, Joey, about it. I found an article online about parties starting at midday and kept on going till sunset.
Really?
Yep, I sent it in the WhatsApp chat.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, so one question I had: who Pilon was Greek or Jewish?
He was Jewish. He was from Alexandria, but it was at the time when Egypt was under Greek rule.
Okay, right.
Okay, I'm sure I can find you exact time frame if you need it.
So he's like he was like a rabbi, a mifarash on.
That's what's funny about him. He was not a rabbi. In fact, if you look at pictures of him, you would really be stunned to see him. He lived in. He was born 25 BC. Okay. Now the interesting thing is that Koren recently started putting out a new set of Humashim, where it's one volume per parasha, and it's a very, very interesting work, and they in fact bring him on every parasha, and they're getting a lot of heat for it, for bringing him in, you know, with your standard mefarshim like Rashi and Ramban and everything else, and they brought him in there as well.
Right. So is he like a Josephus, like kind of not really a rabbinic figure, but still like very relevant? Or you wouldn't make that comparison?
I don't know enough about him.
Right.
I don't know enough. I can't comment. I just don't know.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
because what he said about the water was very interesting.
Yes, it was.
That was their first creation, that they worshipped it.
Listen, for somebody who was born in 25 BC, and we still have his writings and they're studied, obviously he's somebody that knew, something about what was going on, and his words are taken seriously.
Yeah, I'm sure he had access to some
Yes.
understanding of the ancient Egyptian custom that we don't have now.
For sure. It was still at a time when the ancient Library of Alexandria existed.
Right, so it would have been written down somewhere. Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rabbi Kasola, you've been extremely quiet.
I think we have what to say during the Eser Makot.
And then some.
And then some. But my question is who saw the Korban Pesach? And who saw the Makot? If Bnei Israel were in Goshen, how much did they know of Egypt being destroyed, and especially their gods being destroyed? And the Egyptians, how much did they see of the Korban Pesach, knowing that their gods were being destroyed too?
Well, I don't think anybody can really answer these questions exactly, because think of it like this. Here we are, most of us are in the New York, New Jersey area, okay? So let's say people think of Jews living in Borough Park for whatever reason, okay? Doesn't mean that there aren't Jews, in Flatbush or on Coney Island or even in Carroll Gardens or in Bushwick or someplace else. So they're seeing what's going on. And they're going back to their co-religionists and filling them in. And vice versa. That's what I think.
Okay.
There's no way all the Jews just hung out in Goshen, away from everybody else. Impossible. Especially, you have to understand, these were a people that were enslaved, okay? So maybe at the end of their workday, they were getting to go back home, okay? But if they were being enslaved, that means they were also being overseen by not just the Egyptian taskmasters, but there was actually, maybe they were working in somewhat close proximity to the palace, where the king was able to come out, see what's going on as well. The culture, and if they were saying that Am Yisrael was so assimilated after 210 years, now if they were living all by their lonesome in Goshen and not interacting with your Egyptians, then why would they become assimilated? So for all these reasons, I don't buy that they were, living in a ghetto. I don't think it existed at all. And they were only put in Goshen because they were shepherds. Now, if they were no longer shepherding because all the food and everything went to the state, who knows? Anybody else? Something else? Jeff?
It's a lot to digest. I'm looking forward to thinking about
for all of us.
Over Pesach, how he takes each element of what we took for granted of Pesach as just, God is toying with the Egyptians and saying there's a little more method to the toying. So I'm looking forward to thinking about it some more. And I do appreciate how comprehensive and, wordy he was at trying to really build all these parallels.
But that's Rabbi Zaini in general. Any of his writings tend to be very, very thorough, very wordy.
Even from the outset, I never even thought of the midday question. Yeah. And of course, we knew this was kind of a counter attack on Egypt, but never explaining.
Right, never to this extent.
It makes a good legal argument. I appreciate it from that perspective. Nice long legal brief, really trying to, attack it.
It works.
It's exhausting, but it's nice.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's beautiful. It's well done. Definitely worth sharing. But I gotta think about it some more.
We all do. We all do. But like Rabbi Nathan said before, you know, after I mentioned about Bnei part, how not only did he go with that, he went further back to really build up the entire scene for us to understand it. I think we got our money's worth with Rabbi Zaini's article tonight. I think it was good.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody.
Hazaka Baruch and Hag Sameach.
Hazaka Baruch.
Thank you.
Happy, healthy, good things, everybody. Thank you for joining tonight.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.